Iran appears to be shutting the door on diplomacy with Washington, even as Mojtaba Khamenei is believed to be preparing a far larger wave of retaliatory strikes. Iran has officially suspended the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, while Mojtaba Khamenei remains out of public view, fueling intense speculation. 7 relentless nights of missiles and drone attacks have engulfed the Gulf, as Iran continues unleashing wave after wave of devastating retaliation. Declaring that the United States violated every commitment, Iran's deputy foreign minister has delivered a diplomatic bombshell with far-reaching implications. Iran appears to be mobilizing its full military arsenal, raising fears that Gulf states could pay a heavy price for backing Donald Trump. Iran has officially suspended the fragile Memorandum of Understanding with the United States, dramatically escalating an already explosive confrontation. This comes as American forces continued launching waves of strikes against Iran for a 7th straight day without pause. On July 18, Iran's deputy foreign minister announced that Tehran was suspending every commitment it had undertaken under the Memorandum of Understanding. Iran accused the United States of repeatedly violating the agreement, arguing Washington's actions had effectively rendered the entire deal meaningless. The deputy foreign minister declared that Tehran's sole priority had now shifted completely toward national defense and military retaliation. Kazem Garibabadi made the announcement during an interview with Iranian state media, outlining Tehran's latest position on the escalating crisis. Garibabadi accused Donald Trump of deliberately sabotaging diplomatic efforts through what he described as continuous aggressive military actions. Iran further asserted that Washington abandoned its obligations first, leaving Tehran with no option but to suspend its own commitments. The Iran deputy foreign minister said, and I quote, "The U.S. has violated and suspended all its commitments within the framework of the Islamabad MOU. None of those commitments are currently being implemented. We have also suspended our commitments, we are not implementing them, and we are busy defending the country." End quote. The dramatic announcement came as Iran released fresh footage claiming to show devastating retaliation against American assets and Gulf allies. The IRGC claimed its missiles and drones specifically targeted a major U.S. military installation inside neighboring Jordan during the latest barrage. Iran has warned countries hosting U.S. military forces to prepare for what it calls a corresponding response. The warning was issued by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in a statement released on July 17, according to Tasnim news agency. IRGC's statement read, and I quote, "The countries that host the aggressors of the United States should be ready to receive a corresponding response. The location of the gathering of the aggressor forces in the support center of the ground forces in Arif Jan and the radar of the American base of Ali al-Salem in Kuwait were destroyed. The U.S. regime that broke the agreement once again amid negotiations and the illusion of weakening Iran officially resumed the war that had never ended since the beginning of last week. But after a few days of war with the armed forces and receiving crushing responses to his aggressions and verifying that the Iranian armed forces have become much stronger. Since the first day of the war on February 28, instead of honorably accepting defeat and admitting to his miscalculation since the previous day, he took a new approach by running away from the battlefield face to face and tried to hide his failure in the military confrontation by engaging in war crimes and by destructive attacks on hospitals, bridges, railways, airports, ports, and telecommunication centers. Like that and the killing of civilians, he tried to maintain his position instead of fighting crime and cowardice. Since there is no international organization to prevent these barbarities of the American army, there is no other way than the Quranic commandment in front of us. Therefore, the host countries of the aggressors of the United States, who gave their land to the aggressors to attack Iran, should be ready to receive a corresponding response and activate their civil defense units to protect the lives of their citizens and keep them away from possible targets. Nevertheless, in order to give a chance to change this cowardly approach of the American enemy, last night we chose military targets to respond to the enemy. In the 18th wave of Operation Nasir II, the powerful fighters of the IRGC ground forces, with the blessed code Ya Abul Fazl al-Abbas, peace be upon him, targeted the location of the gathering of the aggressor forces in the support center of their ground forces in Arif Jan, killed a number of them, and simultaneously destroyed it with a drone attack on the radar of the American base of Ali al-Salem in Kuwait. Ground forces fighters also destroyed a weapons maintenance shed and a drone hangar. Fighting like warriors continues. unquote. The warning came after the IRGC claimed it had struck Camp Arif Jan and Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. Iran says the operation destroyed a radar system, a weapons maintenance facility, and a hangar allegedly linked to U.S. forces. The IRGC accused Washington of resuming military operations while negotiations were still underway. Tehran also urged Gulf governments to activate civil defense measures as the conflict enters a more dangerous phase. The warning appears aimed at increasing pressure on regional allies that continue to host or support U.S. military operations. A senior advisor to Mojtaba Khamenei also warned that Iran now stands fully prepared to launch what he called a full-scale offensive. Mohsen Rezaei warned that Tehran could soon enter what he described as a phase of full-scale offensive, suggesting that Iran may significantly expand the scope and intensity of its military response. Rezaei further stated that this strategic shift would likely take place if U.S. attacks continue for another 2 or 3 days, indicating that Iran's patience may be reaching its limit. The senior advisor to Mojtaba also said that Iran would no longer restrict its actions to retaliatory strikes alone, hinting at a broader and more aggressive military approach if the current situation persists.
If the U.S. attacks continue for another 2 or 3 days, we will enter a phase of full-scale offensive and destructive attacks. What does that mean? It means that Iran will no longer limit itself to mere retaliation, and no political border will be safe from Iran's offensive powers.
Iran also threatened that American warships deployed around the Strait of Hormuz could soon face an unexpected and devastating surprise. On July 17th, the IRGC Navy threatened American naval forces with what it described as an entirely new surprise military operation. Iran declared that U.S. forces operating across the Gulf are moving dangerously closer to what it called the 0 hour of confrontation. The warning was accompanied by an image showing U.S. warships at sea, released through Iranian state-linked outlet Tasnim. However, the Iranian Navy stopped short of revealing any further details about the nature, location, or timing of the threatened operation. The IRGC said, and I quote, "The movements and equipment belonging to the terrorist American army are being closely monitored by Iran's naval units. The Americans are drawing closer every moment to the 0 hour of the Iranian armed forces operation against CENTCOM naval units in the region's waters. Wait for it." End quote. Tehran further warned that any fresh American strike against Iranian territory would invite what it called a very devastating military response. Iranian forces say they launched counterattacks after U.S. strikes hit several Iranian and allied positions during the overnight operations of July 16, framing their actions as direct retaliation. Tehran claimed it struck U.S. aircraft stationed in Jordan and targeted American equipment and facilities located in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar during its counter-operations. Following Iran's claims, satellite imagery later circulated by open-source analysts appeared to corroborate at least some of the reported damage, showing scarring consistent with strikes at several sites. In Iraq, video circulated online showed the aftermath of an Iranian drone strike that reportedly struck U.S. Patriot air defense positions near Erbil Airport, with wreckage and emergency response visible. Satellite photographs of Jordanian facilities reportedly show a U.S. Army housing compound with structural damage, rubble, and what analysts describe as blast signatures near residential blocks. Iranian statements went further to claim that U.S. Special Operations personnel were killed in one of the strikes, a claim that U.S. Central Command has not publicly confirmed or validated. The IRGC explicitly asserted that refueling aircraft and several fighter jets were destroyed during the assault on Jordanian facilities, presenting the strikes as a substantial blow to coalition air power. Satellite images also appear to show widespread damage at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, with visible damage to aircraft parking areas and installations used by U.S. and coalition forces. Iran's official news agency IRNA reported that a long-range radar array and several U.S. aerial refueling tankers were either destroyed or badly damaged during strikes on Qatari facilities. Iran later released a propaganda video showing missile launches and drone operations it said were part of the retaliatory waves, intending to showcase operational capability and resolve. In a striking visual, the released footage shows photographs of the late Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei affixed to the sides of missiles prior to their launch, blending symbolism with military action. Iranian media characterized the recent actions as part of waves 10 through 16 of Operation Nasr II, signaling an ongoing multi-phase campaign rather than an isolated sortie.